Hey there and welcome back to Rimworld. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of Rimworld Odyssey with the spacefaring Stars of Som. Last time we left off after putting the finishing touches on our bigger and better gravship and after finally acquiring a mechlink and turning Brent into a mechanitor. In order to make quick progress with mechanoid research projects, we immediately summoned a Diabolus and also swiftly defeated it. However, for the War Queen, we traveled to a pirate space station, where we then called in the War Queen hoping for a beautiful chaos to unfold. And, well, chaotic is certainly what it was. The mechs were also swiftly defeated, but the pirates proved almost too much to handle. Not only did we lose our first mechanoid pennypicker, but also about half of our defenses and, perhaps most importantly, a good chunk of our gravship hull. Thankfully, we were able to patch things up quickly, so the loss of oxygen did not harm anyone permanently. Nonetheless, as you can see, our infirmary is filled to capacity, and it will likely stay that way for at least a little while. Some of our pawns are still in top shape though, like Fabian for example, who can hack one of the station's security doors, only to be met with turret fire. So, despite the pirates all defeated, some of the defenses remain. Looks like we'll need to be careful when exploring the complex further. With that in mind, Brian, Raven and Nelgraf enter through the destroyed wall on the north side. They can loot a pallet of survival meals and then peek into the adjacent rooms. So far, nothing overly exciting though. A classroom, a corridor and another chamber guarded by a turret and an unstable fuel node. Back on the ship, mechanitor Brent initiates the resurrection process for Constructoid Pennypicker. Despite Brent's level 20 crafting skill though, it will take around 1.5 days until the mech is fully operational again. Now, to fully explore the pirates' outpost, Saber and the vacuum-proof Blubber are called upon. Their first discovery is a room with 2 hackable terminals, as well as with a turret in the corner that the two can swiftly dispose of. The next few chambers remain unexciting, until we then stumble upon 3 sealed crates over here. Let's crack them open and see what we can find. Right, an Archotech leg, some advanced components, and an extremely valuable Resurrector mech serum, so should one of our pawns perish, it does not have to be a permanent end. The station's southeastern wing, meanwhile, should be avoided. Plenty of traps and explosives around and no valuables worth grabbing, so we keep going, find another survival meal pallet in the center room here, and then Brian walks into a turret. Luckily, the armor protects him from worse, and just in that moment we are also informed that Nick and Deborah are planning to get married. So, seems like last episode's near-death experience has them waiting no longer. We can expect them to tie the knot at some point in the upcoming days. Saber and Blubber, meanwhile, have detected a chamber full of ancient cryptosleep caskets, likely once again containing hostiles, and to make it quick then for the rest of their tour, the rest of the rooms on the station's south side has nothing worth grabbing. Still, we will have our crew members make a few trips into the station, if only to see what's inside those caskets, so let us dispatch of the turret defenses first. The 2 of them should have little trouble with that. In the meantime, back on board of the Heezer, Brent is studying the power-focused chip that we looted from the War Queen's body, and with that, we can now begin researching high mechtech, that is, once we turn our multi-analyzer back on. With most of the turrets taken care of, we can also send Fabian into the complex to hack a few terminals. This disables some turrets in rooms that we wouldn't have entered anyway, and also opens a locked security door. An ancient transport pod is inside, but we have no use for it. Eventually then, after most of our combat pawns have recovered from their injuries, we send them back out, led by Alex, who can now open the cryptosleep casket here. Unsurprisingly, we find hostiles inside, but only 2 of them, and so the fight is over quickly. Reinforced by Saber and Blubber, the team can then also approach the second room with caskets, 4 of them in here, so the fight will take a little longer. It also leaves at least one of our enemies alive. 18 years old, great shooter, good with animals, arts and crafts. Looks like we're taking another prisoner. And of course the loot from both rooms, mostly gold and advanced components. Brent can also free the resurrected pennypicker from the mech gestator. The little constructoid can now once more help out with building and repairs as needed. Meanwhile, our latest recruit Raven throws a tantrum. One thing we overlooked last episode when we recruited her, one of the people inside the cryptosleep casket that she emerged from was her son, and we killed him, causing a hefty -20 mood penalty. I was also rather content with letting her smash up some walls and shelves, but eventually Raven enters the storage room and starts smashing up our valuables in there. That's when we have to put our foot down and restrain her. She was actually close to destroying our Luciferium stash, and that might not be so good for Zero, who relies on the stuff to stay alive. While Raven now sleeps off her anger, we collect a few more shield belts from the fallen pirates, but eventually all valuables are brought on board, and we have no reason to stick around any longer. Our next destination then leads us closer to the South Pole, but it is currently summer here, so temperatures should be comfortable as we set course for some hot springs. Finally, our crew can now take off their heavy armor suits, we can sow out new plants in our hydroponics basins, our animals can leave the confinement of the gravship, and we can start gathering more materials. The mood among our crew rises as a result. Alex experiences a creativity inspiration, and since she can't realistically use it on art or crafting, let's have her construct a poker table instead. This does then in fact result in a legendary work, and with that we now have an item with a recreation power of over 230%, so it will raise our pawn's recreation need much faster. Compared to the statistically more or less identical billiards table, the poker table also has one big advantage. It can be used by up to 4 pawns simultaneously, the billiards table only by 2. Unfortunately, I only remembered this 4-pawn limit after making some rearrangements to the common room here, which now accommodates 6 chairs, 2 more than needed. In the afternoon, you can see it, our pawns are busy loading up the shuttle, and in the evening, piloted by Reno, we sent the Black Shadow over to our neighbors for some trading. In exchange for furs and leathers and a decent number of thrumbo horns, we purchased some medicine and also an art skill trainer. One of our recent recruits could use it. Back home, meanwhile, Brent manufactures a masterwork charge rifle. Slowly but steadily, we're upgrading our entire crew to these weapons for that proper spacer feel. Reno then returns and we give the art skill trainer to Steve. His low mobility makes him perfectly suited to stay on board and make artwork most of the time. Now he can do so slightly more competently. As we then watch Kyla put down some hex tiles in our little chapel, we are informed that Deborah is pregnant. Might be the reason why she and Nick are so eager to get married. This also means that, as we unlock high mechtech on the following morning, we can keep our researchers busy for a little while longer with growth bats. While our mechanoid progress is coming along nicely, we are now technically already able to make our own diabolus. Before we do any of that though, let's improve our defenses. Last episode's mishap showed us that it may be time to rethink the current setup, and step 1 in making sure the Heezer is not so easily breached in the future is actually a simple hull upgrade from steel to uranium. This now more than doubles the hit points of each wall segment here. With over 1000 points, a simple turret explosion will no longer be able to even remotely penetrate these walls. As you can see, we are also securing our power supply a little better by moving both solar panels inside the ship. Yes, while we're in orbit, this makes the first room here more or less unusable without adequate protection, but I think that is a small price to pay for removing the risk of losing power altogether in case of an enemy attack. We are also shifting our turrets around a bit. Having them all clustered so closely together was what ultimately led to problems last episode. Now we put uranium barriers at regular intervals to prevent things like that from happening again. This still does not entirely remove the risk of one turret explosion taking out a few more with it, but it still drastically reduces the amount of damage a single explosion can do, and thus ensures that our defenses remain intact for longer, at least partially. In the middle of this upgrade then, we are informed of another grav core nearby. An ancient reactor contains it, and unfortunately the reactor has begun to leak, bathing the surrounding area in toxic fallout. Still, unless we meet heavy resistance, this could be a quick grab, maybe something for the next episode. For today, we swiftly need to intervene as our steel mining operation runs into trouble. Saber and the thrombos we've been using to haul are being attacked by insects. Thankfully, Alpha Thrombo Terra Kittens could probably handle this all by herself, and Saber's legendary Obsidian Gladius makes quick work of the remaining bugs. Back to our ship defenses then. To support the setup and to be more flexible, we now also construct 2 rocket swarm launchers, very useful against larger groups of poorly armed enemies like tribals. They do need to be manually activated though, which is why we're keeping them close to the entrance here. We might actually build some doors for even easier access in the future. At this point then, I think it's time we call in the third and final mechanoid boss to unlock Ultra Mechtech. Let's have Brent summon an Apocriton. To do so, we first need to construct a mech band dish. This costs us a few valuable advanced components that we won't get back after the dish is used, but it will be well worth it. We don't want to fight at night though, but before sending everyone off to bed, let's have another celestial celebration, a dance party in our new and improved Star Hall. The party then a fun affair, earning us 1 more ideology development point. I'm actually somewhat glad we didn't get a new recruit out of it, as our crew has reached a decent size already and the ship is starting to feel a bit crowded. On the following morning then, we improve our defenses a little bit further. Turrets do actually benefit from sandbags and barricades, so we're putting up the latter, so that our defensive machinery becomes a bit more difficult to hit. Afterwards, we gear up our fighters. It's time to fight another mech, and for this one we're staying on our home turf. As usual, it doesn't take long then for the mechs to drop in. The Apocriton's main danger comes from its ability to resurrect fallen mechanoids. In this first wave, that would be 6 militars and 5 scythers, already a decent pack, especially if we have to fight some of the scythers multiple times. Now, once more, we will engage the mechs on open ground here. I expect a decent melee skirmish to unfold, and turret fire could do more harm than good in that scenario. Just as we set up a nice choke point, we are then informed that Fabian and Zero also plan to get married. There seems to be a pattern developing here. Everything Nick and Deborah do, these two follow suit shortly after, although I'd be curious to see if the 62-year-old Zero will also soon get pregnant. Either way, let's get back to the action. It doesn't take much to attract the mechanoids' attention, and as soon as they rush towards us, we retreat behind our melee blockers. Once the scythers and militars are engaged, we sneak around with our shooters and focus all of our firepower on the Apocriton. The faster we can take it down, the easier this fight will be. We also benefit a lot from many of the mechs rushing too far ahead of the Apocriton, meaning they are now out of range of its resurrect ability. At the moment, I think 3 of the 5 scyther corpses are too far away, another reason why it's a good idea to strike first against this boss, as it moves much slower than its allies. And there we go. That was actually easier than I had expected, and we have now obtained the nanostructuring chip, the final of the 3 mechanoid chips in the biotech expansion, and with it Brent can now unlock Ultra Mechtech. Of course, we begin the research immediately. Unlocking this technology allows us to build the powerful mechlord suit, but I actually think that high mechtech was the most important milestone. In the evening then, a torrential rain sets in and will likely soon flood the hot springs. Nothing we need to worry too much about though, I think. The geyser is walled off, and that should keep the water out and everyone inside protected. As we then begin the construction of a large mech gestator, we are offered a quest that I think we will accept as soon as we leave this tile. The Empire wants to experiment again and asks our permission to coat the area in toxic fallout. And well, since we can simply fly away from that, I see no reason why we shouldn't agree to it, especially considering some of the rewards here. Let me know in the comments which one you would prefer to grab. We will likely leave the map again early in the next episode, especially since some nearby pirates have now also activated a smoke spewer. There's only 10 of them protecting the device, but to be totally honest, the smoke cloud doesn't hurt us that much. The reductions to plant growth and solar panel power output are really only worth a few percentage points. Outdoor light levels still remain at 86% during the day. Still, the overall environmental conditions do not make this the best place to stay at the moment, and just as Pennypicker finishes the large mech gestator, Fabian also locates a plasteel deposit with the long-range mineral scanner, and looking at our dwindling supply of the material, I think we have found our next travel destination. Now, it says here that hostile activity has been detected at the site. What exactly that may be and whether or not it puts our newly built defenses to the test, that remains to be seen, but not today. For today, I actually think we have reached a good point to make the cut. I think we are fast approaching the late game. The Odyssey endgame scenario should be revealed to us soon, and since grabbing that next grav core is an important step towards that goal, let's put that on our to-do list for the next episode as well. For today, I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. As always, if you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or become a channel member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.